Today's expert, JoeSangl, is an author of several books, speaker and leading teacher of personal finances. If you've ever wondered how financial freedom is related to fulfilling your purpose, Joe will show you just that. He firmly believes that when people are financially free, they're much more likely to do exactly what they've been put on earth to do, regardless of the income potential. His passion and mission is to help people accomplish far more than they ever thought possible with their personal finances. He is the founder of I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, as well as president and CEO of Enjoy Stewardship Solutions. Welcome, Joe, to Your Story Matters.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
I love your mission. I do know that anyone with a mission like that has a story to tell. So tell us about your story.
Well, it's like any other story. It's a story that is a before and after story with a major pivot in the middle of it. And so I had a moment, where I woke up. It's almost like I woke up one day, 28 years old, married, had a couple-year-old daughter, and just broke. And it was December 2nd of 2002 was my moment. Some people have moments that they can point to that were life-changing, and mine was December 2nd, 2002. And it came accompanied to a job transfer. I had changed employers and had forgotten that when you leave an employer, they stop paying you money. And it was Christmas. And we were putting Christmas on the credit card again because we didn't know when the new employer would start paying. We didn't know when the first payday would be. And I just had an I have had enough moment. I call it an IHHE moment, similar to when your mom or your parents had an I have had enough moment. They would announce it and things changed. I just announced it that I've had enough of being broke and putting stuff on credit cards and just not prospering. I kept earning more money, but it just allowed me to spend money more rapidly. And so on December 2nd, 2002, I literally just announced to my bride, much to her excitement, that I had had enough. I'm a natural spender. She's a natural saver. And we actually cut up our credit cards that day. I don't have anything against credit cards. I just know that my credit cards, allowed me to give into my impulsive spending decisions. And so we decided we would do something different. And so we sat down and wrote down our dreams. And we really said, if we keep managing money the way we are right now, will we be able to accomplish these dreams? And I did not like my response to myself. And so it gave us the energy and the fuel and the power to do something different. And man, did things change. And 14 months later, we were debt-free except for our house.
Wow.
And we were able to go into full-time ministry in 2006 as a pastor on staff at a church I'd helped start. And I got to negotiate a 50% pay cut. But it didn't matter because we had lowered our cost of living so much by getting rid of our debt. And then this teaching, this life change that had happened for me, I just had to share it with others. And so I was helping people that I worked with put together budgets. I was helping them start, contributing to the retirement plan, showing them the power of compound interest. And every time I did that, it gave me more life, more energy. And so I was like, man, I think I could do this full time. And so I ended up going on staff at our church to help people with stewardship, helping them managing money in a way that honored God and honored their dreams. And I did that for about 3.5 years. But then the Great Recession happened in 2009. I like to say people's 401ks turned into 201ks and then into a box of Special K. And calls from other churches came, and chambers of commerce and businesses asked me to come help their people. And so it birthed into this full-time thing. And so in 2009, it became a full-time thing where I travel and teach and help people win with their money. We've been able to pay off our house at age 38. It's been an amazing journey.
Wow, that is quite a story. And what amazes me is when you made that decision, that how quickly things actually turned around.
Yeah, amazing.
Yes.
And what I found is there's a couple of keys is when people have an I have had enough moment. And I think one of the greatest things for me as a teacher or as someone who tried to inspire people to really believe that their dream could happen is that the I have had enough moment is different for everybody. There are some people who've declared bankruptcy twice. They're facing it a third time, and they don't seem to have gotten to the I've had enough moment. There's others, they get close to missing one bill and they experience that moment. But when you experience the moment, you know it, and things will never be the same from that day on. And I'm just grateful it happened to me at age 28 instead of 48 or 58.
Yeah, that's true. And you said initially when I asked you about your story, how, every story has that pattern, that that conflict.
Yes.
And as part of that conflict is what you call the I've had enough moment, and you've clarified that so well. And then, of course, is that resolution in that turnaround. And, that's so important for us to know that we do have control in many respects. We can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond to it.
Absolutely.
And obviously, sometimes when it comes to finances, some of these things are out of our control, but we still have a choice as to how to respond to that. So I very much like what you said.
Thank you.
So what's wow, things have turned around so quickly for you. You've been exploding in your business. I
Yes.
absolutely love that. And so where do you see all this going? I mean, what's the long term of all this?
Well, it's one of those things when you first start out, you just I have a passion to help other people experience what I've experienced. And, one of the things for me was I went through mechanical engineering school at Purdue University. I had 8 semesters of calculus and beyond, and yet I couldn't make my money behave. And I thought it must be really difficult because I know how to do calculus, but I don't know how to make my money work. And I realized I was thinking too hard, that it's actually first and second grade math. And when I realized that, I'm like, anybody can do this. They just have to have a vision for how to do this. So I started out to just say, I want others to experience this freedom. And then as it became its own entity, then of course you need to be able to pay the people that work with you and be able to have money to advance the mission and the vision. So I really felt compelled to write it in a book. So I wrote, I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. And it's really a story of what happened, like the actual feelings and everything that I experienced before and after, but then how I did it, how I had a budget that actually worked, how I got rid of my debt, how I saved money. And man, it started selling like crazy. I self-published the book. And then I ended up writing another book on investing and another one for young people to prevent money mistakes. And so that was just a vision in the early days. And then, as you get traction and you start to really see that this really has great momentum, then you start thinking about what could be. And so that's where we have a podcast called the Monday Money Tip Podcast. We have the Monday Money Tip YouTube channel. And what I really see is it becoming a brand that is a brand ambassador, that is a consumer advocate working on behalf of you, me, and the 330 million Americans and all of the 40 million Canadians, to really help us know that we control every single dollar that passes through our hands, and to help them be equipped with ways to maximize each of those dollars.
Wow, I love it. And I love the title of your book, I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. I mean, it's so simple. It's so clear. No one can pick up that book and say, I wonder what this is about.
That's right.
They know it. So here we're talking about story, and you said how you just even put down the feelings and everything you went through in that book.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to speak all over, do you share that story?
Yes. Absolutely. I remember I was working with an executive coach back when I was in corporate America, and I encourage everybody to have coaches. I've heard you share stories of faith, and Proverbs 15:22 says, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors, they succeed. And so I've really recognized the power of coaching early in my life and through sports and that sort of thing. So I got an executive coach, and I was asking him, as I shared my passion, it was just a dream to go teach others as a full-time thing. And I said, what do you think is the best thing that we do? Teaching how to budget, how to save money. What is it? He's like, oh no, none of that. He said, the most powerful thing that you have is your story. Share your story everywhere you go. And he was right. And so I share the story. And when I find people leaning in, it most is when I'm sharing the feelings that I had when I was broke, the feelings that I had as we started to make progress, the feelings I had when we stopped making progress, how we got back on the wagon again. And then, of course, the story of success. Everybody wants to hear, how somebody was able to get out of the day-to-day, paycheck to paycheck living. And so being able to share the feelings that I had at each of those three levels, we categorize it in three levels, three S words. We say struggling, then stable, and then surplus. Oh. And, when people are struggling, the idea of surplus is great, but they'd really like to get to some level of stability. And then when they get to stability for a while, then they want to move to surplus. And of course, once you're at surplus, you want to find out how to stay there. And so that's really how we just shared my story. And of course, now we have these thousands of success stories that we get to include of other people who've taken this journey as well. And that's really quite rewarding, is to be able to share the benefits and the successes that others have experienced.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, because that is what story is all about. There's no way we can connect faster with people than through story if we own our story.
Yes.
And that's what I hear so clearly. You have owned your story. Many people, because of where they are in the painful part of their story, have not yet owned it. But once you get to that place to own your story, as you so clearly shared, that's where people connect. People connect with the pain and the conflict.
Yes.
Because it's like, I've been there and I understand what you're going through. But then the exciting thing is, when you own your story, you've moved beyond that and you take them clearly, step by step, to get beyond that. Wow.
I think it takes people back when you admit that you have failed at something.
Yeah.
And I think that vulnerability creates authenticity, and it kind of sets people aback at first, saying, are they really talking about that topic and talking about how they failed? And when you do that, and I would just say, anybody who listens to your podcast, own that story, own that part of your story, because it is in that crucible, it is in that moment where you feel the heat the most, that you will connect the most. And it allows you to be able to then share, here are the one or two things that I've done that helped me. And I've always told everybody, I'm not the expert. I am not the expert, but I can tell you what worked for me. And here's how I did it. And hopefully it works for you. And if somebody does that, I think that's really helpful, because, I don't have PhDs in financial management. I don't have any of that stuff, but I do know that I was broke and now I'm not. And I really like the now I'm not part a lot better. I think others will too.
I'll bet you do. Well, and again, I truly believe that the key is vulnerability, because it's the key to taking people from one level of trust to a deeper level of trust. And when they hear you share, you or I share that vulnerability, that level, it's like it gives them permission to be vulnerable as well. And think, wow, he's willing to admit that he was broke. Well, then maybe I can admit that too. And
absolutely.
Takes them further. So I fully agree. I love it.
And what I encourage anybody who has a story of life change, and don't we all? I hope that we all have some story where we were struggling at something and we're able to become victorious and be able to move beyond it. And when you do that, and when you share that, I think it's very important to share it, saying, I'm sharing this and being vulnerable because I want to help you if you are in that place right now. It's not to say, look at me. It's to say, this can help you. And what I have found over these, I've been going and traveling and teaching and speaking for the last 15 years. And what I found is that many places have found it helpful, and so they've had me back. In fact, this last weekend I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it's the 10th year in a row that I've been there. And we had the largest crowd yet show up to our teaching event, 445 adults. And I'm like, I've been here 10 years. We can't even have that many people in Cheyenne to go through this event. But I think what has happened is people have connected the story. they've begun to write their own story of life change. And as they lean in, they find out that there's more there. And to explain that is, if you're sharing your story, I would encourage your listeners to think about what's the next step that you took after you had your pivot. And always try to say, how can I learn more about what helped me move forward? Because that allows people to get layers of help. There's that initial layer of how to have the transition. But the second part is, okay, now I've made that. How do I take one step further away from it? That's always very helpful.
Oh, I love those tips. Great ideas. The other thing I find, it's kind of like it's our story. We're so close to it. At least it certainly did for me. It took me a while to go back and say, what was that process? What did I do? I just knew it happened. And I was so excited to get beyond the points of deep pain. But when the healing came, I could finally look back and say, okay, let's trace this journey. See what happened? Because once I get a handle on that, then I know what I can share with others and help them with as well.
That's so good. I think one of the crazy things of life is we live it in forward, but we learn from it by reverse, looking back over the past.
True.
And many people are just focused on the forward, and they don't take that time to really analyze and do that autopsy on the past and really say, what can I learn from this? How can I apply these learnings in the future? But the past and our own experiences, how we reacted to it, really is our best teacher of how we can manage that in the future. It's also where you'll find your best way to serve others.
Very good. I love those nuggets. So if you were to leave one key nugget for our listeners today, what would that be?
I would say whatever that thing is that you've put off for the last 10 years, but you continually think about it, that dream that you have, to write that book, to write your story, to create that online class, to have that website, to offer your opportunity to go public speak in front of a MOPS group, a chamber of commerce, whatever it is. Maybe that dream is actually so close to your heart and so personally vested to your heart that you haven't even told another human being that you have this desire to do that. I would tell you, take the step today to do it. It is the most rewarding, affirming, life-changing thing you can do, because when you pour your life out towards others with the posture of helping, there's really nothing any greater that can satisfy something in your soul. And so take the step today to go do it. Make the phone call, start writing the book. You'll never regret it.
Oh, I love it. Thanks, Joe. And I'm going to actually add to that. And that is, and tell somebody, because once the accountability is there, it's a little bit harder to back off and
good.
Let it go. So very good. So I know you have a fabulous gift for our listeners today. Tell us about it.
Well, we do have a couple things. One of them is I have a way that I put financial decisions in order. And it's basically, a lot of people feel like they need to save, but they also need to pay off debt. They know they want to give, but they will need to invest. And those decisions seem like they could be in conflict with each other. And so we actually put those decisions in order through something called the I Was Broke Now I'm Not ladder. And they can get a free copy of that just downloading it. IWBNIN stands for iwasbrokenowimnot.com/ladder. And then we also have a special for our books, the 3 books that I've mentioned, where they can get over 30% off and free shipping if they go to that same website, iwasbrokenowimnot.com/story. And that will be for everybody that listens to the Your Story Matters podcast.
Oh, very good. That's great. And I will be sending those links out as well.
Very good.
That they can take a look at that. And I encourage each one of them to really go to that. Joe, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing those wonderful insights and nuggets with us. And I want to say thank you as well to our listeners for taking the time out to listen to this interview. I hope that it encouraged and empowered you to, like Joe said, to make that decision, whatever that dream is, whatever it is that you wanted to do for a long time. Make that decision to do it. Tell someone about it today. and get started on it on the right path. Thanks again, Joe, for joining us. This has been wonderful.
A privilege. Thank you.